think we need to talk about priorities. We have to talk about priorities.
Right. All right, this seems like a good spot to talk about priorities. So, I've been working like a maniac for the past 5 years now, close to 6. Pretty much my whole time in Japan. And I realized that I haven't seen anything in Japan. Like, all I've done is... すみません。video. そう、本当にすみません。so right, let's talk about priorities. This very sweet grandmother is feeding a cat. Which priorities? Daijoubu, daijoubu. Right, so let's talk about priorities. Tentative number 3. So basically, I've been in Japan for now 6 years, and all I've really done at this point is working. And I didn't really spend much time, enjoying my life in Japan, like traveling in general. Been a father for 2 years and a half, and I didn't spend much time with my daughter. All I've really done for those years is working, focusing on, making money and business. And when I talk about priorities, what really changed with me is that last year in June, I've been through a pretty nasty burnout. And so what happened to me is basically that at that time, that was around June last year. At that time, I was working 70 to 80 hours a week, like probably more. I mean, all I could do was work. All I could think of was work. All I could talk about was work. And eventually, there's a day where it got pretty bad, where I went to work in the morning, that was Saturday morning, went to work on a Saturday morning, basically. And around lunchtime, I reached out to my wife saying, hey, I want to have lunch. Let's grab lunch. So eventually, her and my daughter are going to a restaurant. I joined them. I arrived at the restaurant, and I remember just telling my wife, hey, I'm feeling pretty dizzy. And eventually my arms start feeling numb. There's like all those signals, and I'm like, yo, I'm having a heart attack. And I tell my wife, hey, I'm having a heart attack, like I'm not feeling well. And my wife being my wife, she's like, well, stop freaking out. And I'm like, if there's one situation in life where you have to freak out, it's probably when you have a heart attack. So I'm like, no, I'm not gonna stop freaking out. She knows me pretty well. Eventually though, I do get up because I wanted to go outside. And when I get up, I collapse. I literally just black, pitch black. I don't remember. I literally felt on the table behind me. And I wake up in the ambulance, like the ambulance, like, peepon, peepon. Terrible ambulance noise. But anyway, I'm in the ambulance and I just remember opening my eyes and seeing my child and my wife in there in the ambulance. My daughter is crying like crazy. My wife is super worried. Story short, they told me that I was completely overworked. Like I pushed my bodies to the boundaries. But that day, I really thought it was the end. I remember thinking when I was watching my wife and daughter in the ambulance, like, that's it. That's it. Like, it's over. Whatever, you did, this is it. You cannot do more. And there was a huge sense of, damn man, I pushed so hard for work, for money. And I changed a lot. So that's been now almost 7-8 months since I really changed and switched my priorities heavily. And what is extremely interesting is that while I take way more time now to appreciate things around me, I started to pick up videography, content creation. I travel way more, whether with my family or by myself. I try to hang out more with friends. Overall, I spend way more time caring about my well-being and my mental health. And the interesting part is that business is actually as good as before. Like I do work a lot less, but the business is running really well. And I take a lot more time to make my decisions. I feel overall a lot less stressed. And when I say let's talk about priorities, I do believe that often we will tell ourselves that, oh, let's go to a hike, or let's meet a friend, let's go to the gym in the morning. And many times the excuse or the reason for not doing those things that are basically extremely positive for yourself, the main reason we come up with is usually, I don't have time. And my conclusion at this point of my life is that we all have time. We just might not really make it a priority to take care of ourselves. And so I would invite everyone to, whenever they use the sentence, I don't have time, whenever they use the sentence, I don't have time, they should probably tell themselves this is not a priority. Whenever you say I don't have time, you might actually just say it this way. Just say this is not a priority. And so if you say to people like, the amount of times that I hear from people when they ask me, oh, are you working out? I'm like, yeah, I go every morning, I work out. Oh, I wish I could do that. I don't have time. What you really say is like, oh, my health is not a priority. Okay, cool. That's up to you, right? What is it? What is a priority then, right? Because every time this is not a priority, what is instead a priority for you? Okay, cool. When, you're like, oh, I really want to go to this hike, but I want to hike more. I want to travel more in Japan, but I don't have time. What you really say is rewiring and, putting your mental health back in a stable place is not a priority. Okay. Oh, I don't have time to cook. I don't have time to cook. I don't have time to eat healthy, Okay. Eating healthy and living potentially a lot longer is not a priority. And so I think once you start switching that mindset, once you start actually switching, those two sentences, you might start realizing that a lot of your priorities are just not yours. You're doing things because you're being told to do them. You're doing things because you want to appear like someone who has figured out life. You're doing things because overall you want people's approval. And if that's not your case, great, but it was definitely mine. Me being extremely obsessed with money making and hustling and being a great businessman, all this shit, it all came from me dropping out when I was 22 years old, It all came down from me being a loser at that age. Like I had drug addictions. I was a mess. And rebuilding myself, eventually there was like this one central point that I believed was going to solve all my problems, which was being good at making money. I always thought that, okay, if I'm actually a good salesperson, if I'm great at business, this will give me all the confidence in the world to be happy. And it couldn't be further from the truth. I could really, like, back 6 months ago, 7 months ago, right? If you tell me, okay, you can make 10 times more money right now, it will not have made me happier. Like, that game is rigged at that point. The most important is to figure out, okay, I can do this. I have some financial stability to really offer time to myself to think about priorities. And then do whatever you have to do, but make sure you do it for yourself. Anyway, we finally talked about priorities. The initial footage that I had, I forgot to press record actually. So I had to make this second video today. And yeah, I'm having a blast. I'm enjoying so much this content creation journey. I'm receiving a lot of support from people. It's absolutely amazing. I love it. Connect with more creatives out there. So if you're someone here in Japan or even outside of Japan and you want to, you know, hang out, discuss collaborations, whatever, you want to teach me stuff, like you see stuff in my videos that you feel like, hey, this could be improved, or you should do this or that, all in, all in. I will never take anything, you know, the bad way. I love learning. Which is ironic from a dropout, but I absolutely love learning. I just love learning on my own terms. So, absolute pleasure as always. If you're still here, thank you so much for your time. Reach out, let me know how I can be helpful to you. I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.